They stood facing each other in the quiet stone chamber. He was the kingdom's most feared warrior. She was the magistrate's forgotten daughter. He had returned from war covered in victory and silence. He looked at her with cold eyes. "I did not ask for a wife," he said. His voice carried the weight of battle. Amara did not bow her head. "And I did not ask for a warrior," she replied, calm and steady. The air between them changed, not with anger, with curiosity. As he turned, she saw it, a deep wound beneath his armor. Untreated, ignored, the strongest man in the kingdom was still bleeding. She stepped closer. The guard stiffened, but she did not fear him. "Sit," she said gently. For a moment, he studied her. Then, slowly, he obeyed. Her hands were steady as she crushed herbs from her pouch. She cleaned the wound, wrapped it with care. He watched her in silence. No one had touched him with kindness in years. "Why are you not afraid of me?" he finally asked. His voice was no longer sharp. It was tired. Amara met his gaze. "Because pain recognizes pain," she said softly. Those words settled deep inside him. Far away in the royal palace, the king stood beneath the night sky. He had always blamed his son for the death of the empress. She had died bringing him into this world, and the king's heart had never healed. But something was shifting. The servants began to whisper. The new bride did not run. She healed him. The fortress, once cold and silent, began to breathe again. Days passed. The warrior returned from patrol and found her teaching the servants how to prepare healing oils. Laughter echoed where fear once lived. He watched from a distance. Something unfamiliar stirred inside him. One evening, under the fading sun, he spoke again. "My father believes I killed my mother." The words were heavy. Amara did not pity him. She understood him. "You survived," she said gently. "That is not a crime." For the first time since childhood, the warrior allowed his guard to fall. Just a little. Back at the magistrate's mansion, news arrived. The bride was not suffering. She was transforming the prince's fortress. The stepmother's smile began to fade, because the girl she tried to silence was now standing in power. But beyond the kingdom walls, enemies were watching. They would not strike with swords. They would strike at the heart. And now, the warrior and the healer stood side by side, not by force, but by choice. And together, they were becoming something far more powerful than fear. They were preparing my husband's burial while he was still alive. They dressed me in black, but my heart refused to mourn. Because deep inside me, I knew he was coming back. The night before he left for the border, he held me longer than usual. Not like a warrior, not like a feared prince, like a man who was afraid of something he could not name. At dawn, he rode away. By sunset, they said he was dead, ambushed, surrounded, killed on his way to defend the kingdom. The palace fell silent. Drums stopped. Servants whispered. And they brought mourning cloth to my chamber. "Wear this," they said. "Accept your fate." But my spirit would not break. There was nobody, no final word, just rumors and strangely calm faces. 2 weeks passed. Then one morning, the world went dark. I fainted. When I woke, the royal physician stood beside me. His voice was steady. "You are carrying life." I was pregnant. Grief and joy fought inside my chest. They told me to think of the child, to accept widowhood, to begin burial preparations, but I refused. I would not bury a man my soul still felt breathing. And while they arranged funeral rites, while they prepared the throne for another heir, while my stepmother and her sister smiled in secret, he was alive. Ambushed, yes, but not defeated. He survived, hidden, healing, waiting. And on the very day they tried to force me to declare him dead, he walked into the throne hall, alive. The room froze. I could not breathe. And then my stepmother forgot herself. "What are you doing here? You're supposed to be dead." Silence. Every head turned toward her. The prince stepped forward slowly. "What did you mean by that?" The truth rose like fire. The guards moved. Her sister, the king's concubine, began to tremble. Their plan unraveled before the entire court. They had sent him to the border with false urgency. They had arranged the ambush. They wanted the throne for another son. But destiny refused to bow to their scheme. The stepmother was arrested. The concubine was stripped of her title and cast out. Her son lost every right to inherit. Justice was swift, quiet, final. And then something unexpected happened. The king rose. Not as ruler, as father. He stepped down from his throne and stood before his son. Years of blame filled the space between them. The empress had given birth to him, and the king had carried silent anger ever since. But that day, he saw what he almost lost. He placed his hands on his son's shoulders, his voice heavy, and then he pulled him into an embrace. Not royal, not formal. A father holding the child he nearly lost forever. And something healed in that throne hall. Months later, under warm golden light, I gave birth to a daughter, a princess. He held her carefully, the same man who terrified armies. The palace that once felt cold now echoed with drums and laughter. Gold shimmered in celebration, banners danced, the kingdom rejoiced, not just for a child, but for survival, for truth, for love that refused to die.